Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Spotlight on Research. My name is Kaleta Strain. I am the CEO for the Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to this evening. So before the program gets underway, there are a few things that I would like to bring to your attention. For tonight's presentation, all participants on the webinar are automatically muted. Your video and names are not shown to presenters or other participants in our webinar format. There will be a question and answer period following the presentations. You may enter questions at any time during the presentation using the Q&A panel, which is available on the bottom of your screen. We'll do our best to answer as many of the questions as possible during the time allotted at the end. Only questions relevant to the presentations tonight will be addressed. Finally, tonight's presentation is being recorded. The people of the Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan are privileged to live and work across the traditionally sacred land we now know as Saskatchewan. We recognize the enduring presence of the Cree, Dakota, Dene, Nakota, Lakota, Saulteaux, and Métis people, who are the original stewards of the rolling hills, rushing rivers, and living sky we all share today. As an organization, we acknowledge the harms of the past and how Indigenous people are still impacted by the process of colonialism. Through partnership, education, and collective action, we commit to honoring our relationship to the land, our treaties, and each other as we journey towards reconciliation. On behalf of the Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan, thank you for joining us tonight. Over the duration of tonight's presentation, we are hoping to take you on a journey through the continuum of dementia research, from identifying research priorities to funding research, to the research itself, and finally the impact of research and how we use it to inform our work. Funding research through both the Alzheimer Society Research Program and the Dementia Solutions Grant in partnership with the Saskatchewan Health Research Foundation remains a top priority, as we know funding for dementia research is lagging behind. This is why this past September, we launched the Unlock Dementia Research campaign to raise an additional $4 million to support groundbreaking dementia research and reduce the current funding gap in dementia research that exists. Studies show that over the next 30 years, the number of people living with dementia in Saskatchewan will more than double. By funding research today, we're laying the groundwork for the breakthroughs that will benefit future generations while improving the quality of life for people living with dementia and their care partners today. Research is essential to providing hope to families living with dementia, and investments in research are key to changing the future for people living with dementia. Tonight, we're excited to share a behind-the-scenes look at how the Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan funds dementia research, the impact of those investments, and how they are transformed into evidence-informed programs and services that support families right across Saskatchewan. So to start the evening, we would first like to hear from Scott Bray, a donor to the Unlock Dementia Research campaign, to share why he is passionate about supporting dementia research. I'll pass it to you, Scott.
Good evening. Thank you very much for your kind introduction and for inviting me to share my little part of the world on why what you do every single day is so important. I also want to thank you on behalf of my parents, both of whom had dementia, my sister, my wife, my daughters. This is a disease that without greasing the wheels of research, we're not going to find treatment and cure. And I find that tremendously uplifting in the sense that I feel a connection to my parents and my beloved wife. She died at 62 from early onset dementia. My sister died at 59 with early onset dementia. And because my children, my daughters, are both in their 30s, they're surrounded genetically by this disease. And so every year now, my sister and I, my surviving sister, Linda, and I head out to UBC to the David Mophasian Institute for neurological research. And we spend a couple of days undergoing psychometric testing and lumbar punctures and MRIs. And they talk to our care partners, the people that know us the best, to see how we're progressing. It's a very thorough and comprehensive multinational, multi-site study. And I participate for those people I've named. I have such an amazing regard for the researchers, for the dedication, for the endless hours they put in, and it's all rubber meeting the road when eventually we don't get to that last bit that Kaleta mentioned of the impact of research until the end. You know, there are 3 or 4 steps along the way, which you'll go into tonight, all of which are important. But where the rubber really meets the road is the impact of the research, and that's where our hope lies. Hope for that my sister and my wife didn't pass away in vain, so to speak. Maybe we learned something. Kathy was enrolled in the program before she passed away. Carolyn was not. She was very sudden. From diagnosis to death was about 6 months. And these are the reasons. And my 2 little granddaughters, both who are swimming in the same gene pool as their grandpa, and my 2 daughters. So what you do is vitally, vitally important if we're ever going to get to treatment and cure. And I want to thank you one more time for all the little tasks that go on, the planning, the organizing, the directing, the controlling, that leads to funding high quality, persistent, and good research. Bless you all.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for being willing to share your story, share your passion. Your stories, it's so powerful, and it serves as a reminder of why we're all here, why we're here tonight, why we show up every day and advocate for the people that we love. It just it reaffirms that we have to act now. We can't wait. The time is now. And so tonight, I think, will be a wonderful opportunity for us to talk about what that actually looks like, what it means when we say we have to invest in research, what that truly means. So the experiences and opinions of people affected by dementia, like Scott and his family, are vital to shaping our work and ensuring that the needs of individuals and families are at the forefront of everything we do. And research is no exception. So I'm just gonna ask that the slides be brought up, please. Thank you. So as I stated at the beginning of the program, tonight we're going to take you on a journey through the continuum of dementia research. So from identifying research priorities to funding research, the research itself, and finally its impact and how we use it to inform our work. The first stop on our journey is how we identify dementia research priorities. The Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan Board of Directors, as part of our latest strategic planning process, heard from people living with dementia, their caregivers and families, healthcare professionals, and other community stakeholders who continued to send the message that advancing dementia research needs to be a priority. The board heard those voices and ensured that dementia research was a strategic priority of the Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan, both through our investment in research and in the knowledge mobilization of research into action. Research is vital to finding better ways to prevent, diagnose, and treat dementia and improve the quality of life of those affected by it. So what you see here is that through a nationwide consultation, 10 key dementia research priorities were identified by those directly affected by the disease. These priorities shape the future of dementia research and ensure that efforts focus on areas with the greatest potential for impact. So you can see here that addressing stigma emerged as a leading concern, emphasizing the need to understand its impact and develop effective ways to reduce it. Emotional well-being was another key area, focusing on maintaining dignity and mental health for persons with dementia. They also highlighted the importance of early treatment and its effects on quality of life, disease progression, and cognitive symptoms. Strengthening the health system's capacity to meet the growing need of persons with dementia and their caregivers was also identified as a priority, along with improving access to services and support for caregivers to enhance overall well-being. So these priorities really serve as a guide for future research. They really help us to unlock innovative solutions, create meaningful change for people living with dementia, their families, and their caregivers. So the next part of our journey is funding dementia research. So at the Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan, we are committed to funding groundbreaking dementia research that improves the lives of those affected by this disease. So we do this in a couple of different ways. We do it through our partnerships with the Saskatchewan Health Research Foundation, as well as our partnership with the Alzheimer Society Research Program. So through these partnerships, we invest in groundbreaking studies that really drive the progress in dementia prevention, diagnosis, treatment, and care. So our research partners focus on funding the most promising and innovative projects. Only researchers with the best ideas will receive financial support, enabling them to explore bold new solutions that really work to enrich the lives of people living with dementia. You'll hear much more about this process from Patrick Odnicon from the Saskatchewan Health Research Foundation a little bit later in the program. So the Alzheimer Society Research Program is Canada's leading hub for dementia research, empowering the brightest minds in the field to spark new ideas and translate them into real-world impact. The Alzheimer Society Research Program provides funding through a range of different grants, ensuring that researchers at all stages can explore transformative approaches to understanding and managing dementia. With a focus on high impact and high risk projects, funding enables scientists to test innovative theories and identify promising areas for future exploration. So the Alzheimer Society Research Program is funded by Alzheimer societies across Canada. And currently, there's approximately an $11 million gap between the amount of highly fundable research studies and the funds available to support them. So the other way that we fund research is through our partnership with the Saskatchewan Health Research Foundation. The Saskatchewan Health Research Foundation funds, supports, and promotes the impact of health research that matters to Saskatchewan. So our partnership allows us to fund essential research in Saskatchewan through the Dementia Solutions Program, which provides $200,000 in annual funding. So $100,000 of that is committed from the Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan and matched by the Saskatchewan Health Research Foundation. We've had a partnership for over 15 years, making tremendous impact right here in Saskatchewan. We're lucky enough to have Patrick join us this evening to let us have a little lens into the process that they follow to fund this research. So supporting research both locally and nationally is vital, as breakthroughs in one region can inform and enhance studies across Canada, ultimately benefiting all of our communities. Funding dementia research is not possible without donors who are committed to helping us move this priority forward. So as mentioned this fall, we launched the Unlock Dementia Research campaign to raise an additional $4 million for dementia research. I'm happy to announce that as of today, we have raised $3.96 million. So we're right there. We're gonna blow past it by the end of the year. Dementia research is only possible due to the generosity and support from incredible donors. So thanks to all of you who have already given. And for you who still want to give, there is still time to give, and we'll include a link in the follow-up email. So to walk us through the next part of our journey, I'd like to now welcome Patrick Odnicon, who is the CEO of the Saskatchewan Health Research Foundation.
Thank you. Thank you, Kaleta, and thank you, Scott, for your important story and your passion. You can feel it on the other side of the screen, so very much appreciated. Tough to follow that up. I'll get the slides shared, and then I'll start in with a bit of a presentation. Me being from the academic world, you get to look at PowerPoints, and I'll try to be fairly quick with who SURF is and stuff, and get into a bit more of the who and the what and how of research and a bit of the process. So next slide, please. So when we look at SURF, we are the provincial agency. We're funded by the government of Saskatchewan, and through these investments and these partnerships, and we fund this high impact peer-reviewed research. We try to do our best to fund excellence, and what a lot of our research does is it helps our researchers move to bigger things, and find solutions, and look at testing those solutions out in a local context, because context matters. What maybe works in Ontario at a long-term care home working with older adults may not work here. So we always need to kind of think about context from that perspective. Next slide, please. So we have been around for over 20 years now. It's scary. I've been here for 17 of those. And what we were set up to do is to seek and receive funding. So that's through partnerships and those types of things. We encourage and facilitate health research. So we engage with stakeholders. We work with partners. We fund research according to a strategy. So we develop programs and deliver on that side. And then we also disseminate information about the funded research. So we want to tell the story as well. And we can't do that without great partners like the Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan. We've collaborated on some of these stories before, and they're very, very powerful pieces. Next slide, please. So when it comes to strategy, this is what we do. We want to strengthen research capacity and competitiveness. So as I mentioned before, we have programs that try to do some of this stuff, but essentially we're trying to build capacity in our researchers and what's going on in the province, and we want them to be successful at the national stage as well. So we don't have enough dollars just in Saskatchewan to keep our researchers funded. So we want to let their wings fly and be able to attain national funding. We increase the investment in research and innovation. So what that means is we partner. Not only with the Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan, but we have national partners that when we partner with those people, and those organizations, we're bringing dollars into the province. So we're bringing more dollars in for our researchers to do the excellent work that they do. And then we align the research with our stakeholder needs. So one of those stakeholders is you and the Alzheimer Society. So we've had a long-standing partnership. So we've aligned a piece of research and of our programming towards Alzheimer's and dementia research. The same thing, all our stakeholders is our government, and what are some of their priorities. So there's a lot that goes into the aligning research, and it's as Kaleta mentioned about the priority setting. We kind of use a different word of calling it aligning our research. Next slide, please. So a little bit more about what the heck does a funding agency do, and who are we? What is it? Well, first we develop and execute research funding programs and competitions. So, and I'll go through a little bit of a process of how some of that stuff works, but there's a lot of brain power and not my brain power, smarter people than me that are working for SURF on how to develop these programs so that we're getting good applications, and we make sure that our competitions and our researchers and their applications are engaging with end users and patients so that the research has meaning. We uphold a rigorous peer review process. So I'll get into a little bit more of that, but we have some really smart people who review all of our applications for them. It's not me who reviews them or staff. We make sure that people who are reviewing them are outside the organization so that there's no conflict of interest, and we're not just funding our friends, let's put it that way. We partner with other organizations. So just like Kaleta said, we've partnered for a long time with the Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan. And, there's a reason why this partnership works is both organizations have similar values and goals, and we want to make a difference, and that is key when it comes to funding research. We also measure the impact and share the stories. So we follow up with researchers, and we have annual reports, final reports. We follow up with them 5 years after we've funded a project to see what other funding they've received, and what kind of impact have they had. Has their innovation or their program moved into being fully utilized in a long-term care home or in the health system. So those types of things we do, and of course we try to share those stories. And the last one, we act as a trusted and neutral convener. So I like to say that SURF is kind of the Switzerland of health research in Saskatchewan. We don't we want to facilitate, we want to make sure everyone is successful, and we do our best to do that. So we don't have a bias, and we don't work towards anything but excellence and trying to make a difference. Next slide, please. So you probably can't see this unless you're squinting at you and stuff, but I want to take you through a little bit of the process of how this peer review thing works. And what we always try to do, and when we get these applications coming in, is we want to answer a few questions. Is it relevant, or is it original? Has it been done before? Will it make a difference if we actually find out the answer to this, or if we test this solution with this population? So we want to make sure it's relevant and original. Is it feasible? Is it ethical? Those are important things, especially in the research world. Does it fit with the program? So with the solutions program, are we testing a solution? Is it an innovation? Are we trying to test it out in the field? So these are the types of things that we want to make sure that we're getting good applications for. And then, does the researcher have the team and the expertise to support and to do the research? If they don't, then we don't want to invest in it, because we don't want to waste public dollars on something that maybe won't work. So that's an important piece. Off on the right, once again, it's going to be a little bit difficult to see maybe unless you're squinting, but essentially what happens is researchers submit their applications to our programs. Everything is done online, so it's pretty seamless on that from that perspective. We will read all of the applications, make sure that they're complete, all the budget is in there, all the justifications of their budget, make sure that they've engaged with community and patients and stakeholders. So all the right people are on the grant. So we review everything. Then we talk to this committee chair, and we set up these committees of, once again, these peer reviewers. Most of the time they're from outside of the province, so we look for people from all across Canada and even the US, to make sure that we've got good people reviewing with the right background reviewing these types of applications. We take a look at who is on the committee. We distribute the applications to the review committee. They do an in-depth assessment of what the research is, their methodologies and their budget and all of these types of things, and the things I mentioned off on the left side of the slide. They discuss, they rate, they rank, and that's where we essentially get the list of who is the top ranked, how many more can we fund with the dollars that we have. Sheriff then ensures that our process was followed, and we make sure that that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. Sheriff offers the grants to the principal investigators and the co-investigators and the research team. They have to accept and get a few signatures for us and promise to do their work and all these things, all these administrative things that I won't bore you with, but it's important checks to make sure that we're spending the dollars in an appropriate way. And then we authorize the payments and we pay them every month until the end of the grant, so that they have the dollars to fund students, to buy supplies, to go out into the field and do surveys, and to engage with community and what have you. So all of these types of things are a part of the research process. Next slide, please. So this little slide, just to kind of give you an indication of our partnership and what has been funded in Alzheimer's and dementia research and seniors and aging more broadly in the province over the last 5 years. So Alzheimer's and dementia, 33 projects, about little over $1.75 million. And a lot of that has been in partnership with the Alzheimer Society, but there are other grants that we have funded and through partnerships outside of the province that would contribute to that. Other research on seniors and aging, 26 projects at $1.2 million. So significant investment in this area because it's important. Next slide is a little bit more about our partnership and how this actually works. So we partner to provide support through Sheriff's existing programs. So, just like the Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan and others around the province, they come onto our own programs and contribute dollars that way. We combine resources to offer new or targeted opportunities. For example, the Children's Hospital Foundation partnered with us, and we ran their research program. And then sometimes Sheriff contributes to and required matching dollars for researchers for partner-led opportunities. So the Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan, of Canada, has a program, and we sometimes are approached to match some of their and co-fund some of those projects. So there's a lot of ways to partner, and each one of these has probably five or six different ways of making sure that we're partnering in a good way and in a unique way, so that we're being efficient with how we spend dollars, but also efficient in our processes, and that's important. Next slide gives you a little opportunity to see how many partners we have. There's quite a few here, and this isn't even an exhaustive list. There's more that have been that are on this list. Next slide is just a quick piece of information on the programs of what we fund. So we have a capacity program, establishment grant program that sets up new early career researchers to get their first grant from SSHRF and send them on their way. And this grant has shown to be very successful in helping researchers attain national funding and set up their program that way. We have a connections program, align and mobilize grants within there. It's really how do we share the results of research with a non-academic crowd? How do we share that with the public, with policymakers, with government? And that's a little bit of what that program funds. Then we have this solutions program, which with Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan has partnered with SSHRF on. It has innovation grants, impact grants, and just as the word says, we're looking for solutions. We're not looking for just research for the sake of research. And then our last little piece, the partnership program, it helps collaborations and look for different institutional partnerships. So it's one of my favorite because it gives us the opportunity to work with others and once again increase the pool of dollars that Saskatchewan researchers get to apply for. There's one program that's not here, and it's because it's new. And one of the things that we're trying to do here is we're developing a pilot program to provide funding as well as networking collaboration opportunities to propel SSHRF-funded teams and their progress in making promising research solutions a reality. And if you could move to the next slide. So this past year, we held our first research expo focused on virtual care. So virtual care was our first solutions focus area, and that was 4 or 5 years ago. And what we wanted to do is take a look at those virtual care projects. How have they done? So we found 5 that are very, very promising. A couple that are related to Alzheimer's and dementia or older adults. And it's interesting to see where they've come, and we're looking at how do we realize the value of these projects. So many times research kind of sits on the shelf, or it's the end of the grant, and researchers, communities, they move on because there's no more dollars to put into that. So what we want to do is we want to focus on advancing these SSHRF-funded research projects towards adoption, towards widespread use, and long-term sustainability. So that word long-term sustainability is important because how do we make research real? How do we put it into practice? How do we action it? And that's the whole idea behind this program. This is it's new. We're piloting it. We're calling it a pilot project for now, but we're hoping that this can continue and move into something that is our 5th area of programming. Now, the last piece, which I'll wait before you change the slide, but I'll preface it here is, in our opinion, brain health is essential for physical health and a fundamental prerequisite for mental health and well-being. And that is throughout our lives. And from promoting optimal brain development and cognitive health throughout the lifespan, to preventing, to diagnosing, and treating numerous neurological conditions, research on brain health is an exciting frontier and holds great promise for solutions that will both improve lives and reduce healthcare burden. So this is kind of an exciting piece. I'll get you to change the slide now, but SSHRF has just announced a new focus area for the next 2 years, and we've brought on a partner in an organization called Brain Canada and we're announcing this partnership to invest in Saskatchewan brain health solutions over the next 2 years. We are going to be working with the Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan. We look forward to being a partner to fund critical dementia research in Saskatchewan. And this is just such an exciting time for brain health and looking for solutions to some of the many things that are challenges for Saskatchewan people, populations, and what have you. So I just wanted to finish on this slide because this is an exciting piece. I've been waiting. How do I do this? Do I make the screen flash when I do this? And I couldn't figure out the PowerPoint. So you just get this boring slide, but hopefully you can see through the excitement of my voice here is that this is going to be a game changer for brain health. And it's not just dementia and Alzheimer's, but it could be mental health, it could be neurological. There's MS, there's a lot of things that are going on. And you know what? We're looking at the brain as it's one brain. And it has a lot to do, and it has something to do with everything, whether it be from the heart, the lungs, the body. It's one of those things that that we're going to try to make change. And this is a super exciting time to be a part of this. So having said that, I am done. You could change the last slide, and it's just a simple thank you. And I believe I'll be around for questions a bit later. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and look forward to the discussion.
I can't wipe the smile off my face, Patrick. It's such exciting, it's exciting news, and everybody in Saskatchewan should be very excited about these developments. And it's certainly going to be a transformational time for dementia research in Saskatchewan. So, woo! I feel like we should be doing jazz hands or having fireworks or something. But so now that we've got all of the good feels about how much dementia research is happening, I'd like to invite Joanne Michael, our Director of Programs and Services at the Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan, to talk a little bit about how research is transformed into the evidence-informed programs and services we provide. Joanne.
Thanks, Kaleta. And maybe while we're getting my slides put up, I too would just like to take the opportunity to thank Scott for sharing your why about why research is important, why we need to continue to fund research, and why we need to use research in our day-to-day activities here at the Alzheimer Society. And I also want to thank Patrick for that fabulous overview of the Saskatchewan Health Research Foundation and explaining the rigorous peer review process, because I really think that lays such a nice groundwork for what I'm going to be talking about for the next few slides. So the Alzheimer Society, we pride ourselves in using evidence-informed or research based resources in our individual support and in the development of and delivery of our programs and services. On the slide, you'll see a few of the research studies that we have either participated in to evaluate our programs or research that we have adopted in our program delivery. Within the Landmark 2 study, the second study in the Landmark series, The Changing Faces of Dementia, we're using the information from that particular study to inform our strategic priorities around serving the diverse needs of underserved populations, different ethnic backgrounds, rural and remote, young onset dementia, etc. The study that is related to the development of telehealth video conferencing support groups that was done a number of years ago by some of our research partners is a model that we have adopted for the delivery of all our virtual support groups. And certainly we used that model a lot during COVID when all of our support groups were delivered virtually. Most recently, we've worked with researchers from the Rural Dementia Action Research Team, or the RADAR team, at the University of Saskatchewan, who evaluated the participation of Alzheimer Society First Link coordinators in the primary healthcare memory clinics. The findings of this research spoke to the valuable contributions that we make to the memory clinic team and to the patients that are being seen at those clinics. Next slide, please. The Alzheimer Society actually does quite a bit in order to support researchers with their research. We're frequently asked to provide letters of support to researchers as they're trying to secure grants, and whether that funding might be through the Saskatchewan Health Research Foundation or other funding partners and opportunities. As we write those letters, we will indicate what we see the benefit of the research being to people living with dementia, and what the Alzheimer Society commits to do, or what our involvement in that particular project will be if the project is funded. We often are asked to sit on research advisory or steering committees to provide input into that particular research project. We have unique connections, and so we often assist the research team with making connections to others that might support their work, such as other organizations, people with lived experience, and provide suggestions of how to disseminate or share the results of their research. We also work with researchers to create or support Alzheimer's Society programs and delivery. We're currently working with Dr. Megan O'Connell from the University of Saskatchewan and her team to create and provide tools to our support groups facilitators to help them to better support care partners in their support groups. This project is funded through a Saskatchewan Health Research Solutions Program Impact Grant. So that's just a demonstration of one of those impact grants that Patrick just spoke about. One of the things that researchers are often very challenged by is to be able to recruit people to participate in their studies. As we support over 3,000 people from over 300 different Saskatchewan communities, as well as having a large social media presence, we are able to share with our community opportunities that they may be for them to participate in research if they so choose and are interested. Next slide, please. As mentioned in the previous slide, researchers are frequently looking for people to participate in research study. Participation may take place in a variety of ways. Through an active participation in a program or perhaps a new therapy, through completing interviews, surveys to gain information about experience or perceptions. And the participation can be perhaps in person, virtually, by phone, or completely online. If you're interested in learning more about available opportunities, you can visit the Alzheimer Society website, alzheimer.ca/find studies, as identified in your screen and just put into the chat. There you'll find a list of current studies that from across Canada that are actively recruiting and looking for participants. There'll be a little bit about each of the studies, eligibility criteria, and a link to get in touch with the researcher to learn more. You can also keep an eye on our eConnect electronic newsletter and social media, where opportunities that are shared as they become available, whether they be for research right here in Saskatchewan, or again, if we're helping to support researchers across the country. Next slide, please. We also use research to inform our advocacy efforts. An example of this is the landmark study that the first landmark study talked about the prevalence of dementia over the next 30 years, which adds the data and the urgency to our advocacy calls and the need for increased support. We continue to use the research findings to inform our advocacy strategies and messages to government and other healthcare professionals. Right now, as mentioned before, with the primary healthcare memory clinics, there's lots of research being done by the Rural Dementia Action Team, or the RADAR team at the University of Saskatchewan, as well as from the MINT memory clinics out of Ontario, about the effectiveness of having primary health care memory clinics located in cities outside of Saskatoon and in some much smaller communities in rural Saskatchewan. These clinics increase the ability to get a diagnosis closer to home and reduces the number of referrals that need to be sent to a specialist. We utilize this research when we're talking to the Ministry of Health and elected officials about the importance of an accurate and timely diagnosis and the importance of getting that diagnosis close to home. As research continues to transform and information, and as new treatments are becoming available for people with dementia, we need to continue to advocate to, again, access for that timely diagnosis, access to treatments and treatments that are affordable, as well as the specialized diagnostic tools and screening that may be needed to support the use of these treatments. So as you can see, this is just a really quick and brief overview about how research not informs our practice, how we support researchers, but how our advocacy, how research supports our advocacy efforts and priorities within our organization. So I'll turn it back to Kaleta.
Thank you so much, Joanne. It's certainly a tremendous amount of work happening, and kudos to you and your team for your tremendous work. I will get Patrick to turn on his video as well for the Q&A portion. So we've got a few minutes to answer any questions that there are. So if you have a question, please enter them into the Q&A section of your screen, and we'll do our best to answer any that come. Patrick, there was one submitted ahead of time that asked about funding applications. Do you fund all applications that come in from researchers? And what happens to those that do not get funded?
That's a really good question. So just for example, if we get 15 applications for our program, it goes out to their peer reviewers and what have you, and so they will review them, they will assess them. They always give feedback to the researchers about things and how they can improve the study or any of those types of things. So let's say 10 of them were above the 3.5 mark. That's 3.5 out of 5. That's kind of the rating scale. So if 10 of the 15 are above the 3.5, that means that technically we could fund 10 projects. So it would say that 5 were not suggested for funding. So those 5, they're given feedback and given ways to improve their application for a next year or subsequent application. But a lot of times we only have money to fund 5, 5 of the top ones. So we would fund 1 through 5, and then 6 through 10. Those are ones that we kind of give them feedback, but we have to say, you know what, we ran out of money. That's something called the funding gap, and that's what kind of Kaleta was talking about, is we have enough money to fund 5 of those projects, although 10 of them could have been funded because they are deemed excellent. But the funding gap says that we're missing dollars for those that kind of middle chunk. So essentially everybody gets feedback. We only fund the excellent ones, but some always kind of, I'm not going to say fall through the cracks, but some of them just are unfortunately not funded because of a lack of funds, a lack of dollars to invest in research.
I'm going to put you on the step because your answer prompted another question from me. We know that the ASRP has annually around an $11 million funding gap. Do you have an idea on average what the funding gap for, whether it's dementia specific or whether it's just your overall funding gap for SHRF is?
That's a great question. I don't have the numbers on the top of my head, but I know that our success rate for most of our competitions, we try to keep it around the 40% mark. So 40% of our applications are funded. So that means 60% are not. So you could almost say that 40% funded, there's probably 30% there that probably could be funded, but aren't simply because of a lack of funds.
Mhm. Thank you, Patrick. We have another question, which I believe, Joanne, if you're comfortable taking this question, somebody asked, is there information on emerging research and treatment options that can be discussed with medical professionals and caregivers?
So certainly there are already a number of treatment options that have been approved by Health Canada and the province that can be discussed. And if you need additional information about that, I would encourage people to contact the dementia helpline, and the information about that can be talked on an individual basis, because we're not doing that. But maybe, Kaleta, we can have you talk a little bit about the pending decision about the upcoming disease modifying drugs, because as you know a little bit more about that than I do, and where that might be.
Absolutely. So currently there is a pending decision by Health Canada to approve a drug called lecanemab. And so it's the first drug to show that it can actually modify the disease progress itself. The US has approved it. Other jurisdictions are currently reviewing or re-reviewing their approvals or non-approvals of it. And so it sits with Health Canada at this current time. So it's certainly, that would be emerging research. And as we learn about the decisions, those are where we will learn more about what does it mean for people living with dementia? What does it mean for caregivers? We'll be able to provide more information about the timeline of some of those drug approval processes after Health Canada, and really advocating for access to diagnoses and treatments here in Saskatchewan. Okay, another question for Patrick. Which research gets, sorry, I'm reading it on the fly. Which research gets funded? Would it depend on how much funding the group is asking for? And in that way, you could potentially fund more projects.
Great question, because just recently we put a range of what applications can ask for our innovation grants. So now innovation grants can be anywhere from 25,000 to 75,000. Before it was just simply a $50,000 grant, and researchers for the most part will try to find every cent to go for $49,945. That's what they're going to ask for, even down to the cent. But what we've done is given that range, because we know different types of research cost. Their costs are different. There's some research that is done in an Indigenous community where, you know what, we just need to kind of engage community. Do this. We don't need $50,000. We need $30,000. So that is something that we are looking into for those types of grants. Not unfortunately, but biomedical researchers tend to ask for the majority of the dollars, simply because research is expensive, and students are expensive, and supplies are expensive. But a very good point, and that's something we've tried to do with the innovation grants.
Patrick, you're popular tonight. We got another question for you. How do you know if funded projects are progressing, or what the outcomes or results of the study are?
A great question. So we're constantly in contact with the researchers, the principal investigators, and they have to send us annual reports. So if it's a 2-year project, they have to send us an annual report, and we ask them a whole bunch of questions about budget, but also about how the project is going, any delays, all those types of things, because a lot of projects always ask for extensions at the end. Even if it's for 3 months, just so that they can finish up some funding with a student, or finish an engagement exercise with the community. So these types of things happen, and SHERF is fairly flexible in accommodating those types of things. So we have annual reports. We also have a final report. We always ask, okay, what was the results? What are the outcomes of this research? And we ask them all the questions about, did you publish? Did you present your findings anywhere? Were you in the news, in the media? Did you do any community type of presentations? Did you talk to any policymakers and those types of things? So we asked them a whole bunch of questions at the final report. And then for some of our grants, not all of them yet, but we're moving towards this, is we ask them a 5-year follow-up, or a follow-up survey, which is usually a couple of years after their final report, to see, okay, has this research turned into something bigger? Have you applied for dollars nationally, and have you attained those? Have you expanded your research? How did this research project contribute to a new collaboration with somebody else? So we ask all of those questions to see kind of where things are. And as a partner, we provide all of that information back to the Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan, so that they can see as well. So we're very big on accountability and making sure that the dollars are spent well, but also that we know what happened. We know the results, so that we can share that with a larger audience.
We've also been fortunate to have many of the researchers and their projects that we funded through SHERF come and present either a spotlight on research event like this one, or they've come in and presented at our AGMs, or to our staff. So it's another way to kind of extend out the communication of those outcomes. Okay.
Well, there's perhaps no more questions. I have a question for Patrick. What do you see that, even as an Alzheimer's Society, we know that one of the biggest challenges is getting that research into practice. What do you see that, as an Alzheimer's Society, or even as members that might be listening to the webinar or watching this recording later, what can we do to enhance getting some of this great research from mobilized and into practice?
That's a great question, because I think it takes an army. We all need to kind of be a part of this. I early in my career, I always thought, okay, SHERF is in charge of this. We fund the research, we do this, but that's where it stops. And because somebody else needs to take it, government needs to do this, or we need others to, we need corporations to pick this up, and all those kinds of things. But the more I think about it, it's the role of a funder like SHERF and the Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan. Our job doesn't end anytime. It maybe changes over time, but it doesn't end. So yes, we'll fund the research, and we'll set up the program, and we'll fund the research, and we'll have we'll get the final reports and all those types of things. But you're absolutely right. We need to kind of see, okay, how do we share this knowledge? How do we move it along? How do we engage other stakeholders, that they can see this and maybe have an uptake of some of the research? And that's where SHERF's realizing value piece is absolutely key. It's something we're once again, we're piloting and seeing where it goes, but some of these projects are so promising. They're right there, but they run out of money, or they don't have quite enough time to engage the Saskatchewan Health Authority and the department here to kind of get it through their system to be able to implement that process or that pathway. It didn't have time to get through the long-term care piece and stuff. So we're developing this program to see if we can take one or even two innovations and get them over that hump, to see if we can sustain sustained impact over the long term. And that's the important part of research. We don't do research for the sake of research. We are doing it to change and to create hope and change the system and change things for the better, so that we're all healthier. That's a poor ending. That started really cool, but I lost my focus there. I lost at the end, but essentially we're here to make a difference.
Absolutely. I couldn't think of a better way to end it. We are here to make a difference, and there is so much opportunity and hope ahead of us. Thank you, Patrick, for being here. Thank you, Joanne, for being here. Special thank you to Scott Bray for being here. And thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. Watch for an email soon with a link to a survey to help us gather feedback about tonight's presentation. And then we'll also send out a second email with the video recording of this presentation. So thank you so much for attending, and hope to see you again soon.